There's a few big names on some big teams out there that really need to be let go.
This guy's already stretched the rubber band farther than I thought he would, Chris. He's lasted longer at a high level, and you never know when the wheels are going to come off.
Before we start, just a note that we tried to leave out some of the more obvious trade candidates like Lamar Jackson, who's already revealed that he's demanded a trade from the Ravens, or Aaron Rodgers, who's obviously going to be a New York Jet any day now. So with that out of the way, let's dive into 10 NFL stars who need to be traded next. Derrick Henry. Many wondered if the Tennessee Titans would commence Operation Rebuild, which would have consisted of trading away Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. But judging by their early offseason moves, it looks like Tennessee is still hoping to compete for a playoff berth in 2023. Look, we get it. Staying competitive and keeping star players like Henry help you sell extra tickets and merchandise. But do the Titans really think they're good enough to compete in the crowded AFC with top clubs like the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Los Angeles Chargers, and Jacksonville Jaguars? King Henry stayed healthy and turned in another monster year for the Titans in 2022, and yet it still wasn't enough to make the playoffs. What makes Tennessee think that he'll be able to make up for all the other shortcomings on offense? 2023 is the final year of Henry's contract, and the Titans shouldn't even think about extending the two-time rushing champ in 2024 when he turns 30 years of age. They should just instead trade the 2020 Offensive Player of the Year right away and get some value for him in return, rather than watch him leave in free agency for absolutely nothing. That sounds like the only logical move, but will they actually do it? Mike Evans. A model of consistency, Evans has 1 year remaining on his contract before he eventually scores one last big payday for his career. Evans has recorded 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons to begin his career, an NFL record, and he finally reached the mountaintop by helping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a Super Bowl 55 championship in year 1 of the Tom Brady era. Evans remains one of football's premier deep threats and red zone weapons, but his production is sure to regress with Brady now retired. Sorry, but Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield just ain't gonna cut it. The Bucs don't seem keen whatsoever on rebuilding, even though their title window has slammed shut. Rather than extend Evans as he enters his 30s, the Bucs should deal him now and get valuable draft capital in return. Really, what's the alternative here? Keep Evans with your competitive window closed and risk losing him for nothing in 2024 free agency? Extend him long-term knowing the contract likely won't age well? Neither of those two options are all that appealing, hence why the Bucs should probably just trade Evans now and get something in return before they begin their inevitable rebuild. Josh Jacobs. The Las Vegas Raiders may have placed the franchise tag on the 2022 rushing champion, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to keep Jacobs beyond 2023. The Raiders made a grave mistake by not picking up the 5th-year option on Jacobs' rookie deal, and he responded by racking up a league-leading 1,653 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. The problem is handing out a big-money contract to running backs generally doesn't age well these days. I mean, look at guys like Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, and Le'Veon Bell, just to name a few. Vegas needs to learn from other teams' past mistakes and avoid the big money deal here. Secondly, the Raiders just aren't at all in the position to compete with the top dogs in the AFC. Isn't it better to deal Jacobs while his trade value is at its peak now? The Raiders should use logic and deal Jacobs now rather than extend him or lose him for nothing in free agency. It's not hard to find a quality running back these days, so why spend valuable dollars on a guy at a devaluing position? Danielle Hunter. After missing all of 2020 and being limited to 7 games in 2021, Hunter stayed healthy and regained his Pro Bowl form in 2022. Hunter finished the year with 10.5 sacks, helping the Minnesota Vikings to 13 wins and the club's first NFC North Division title in 5 years. Now, despite his efforts, the Vikings fielded the league's 5th worst scoring D that led to the team's early demise in the postseason. Minnesota began rebuilding the D by moving on from Patrick Peterson, Eric Kendricks, and Dalvin Tomlinson. Will Hunter be next? Well, he probably should be. The Vikings don't have enough young blood on their defense, and Hunter is too injury-prone to justify landing another long-term contract extension. The Vikings could fetch some much-needed draft compensation in a potential Hunter trade, and lots of teams should be interested in his services. Minnesota probably won't keep Hunter beyond this year, and the draft gives them the chance to rebuild their defensive line. Signing Marcus Davenport in free agency was a nice start on that front. Now it's time to move on from Hunter and continue the reshuffling of an aging and overpaid defense that needs more youth and speed than ever before. Derrick Brown. The Carolina Panthers have invested most of their draft capital since 2019 on defense. They've landed a few gems like J.C. Horn, Brian Burns, and Jeremy Chin, while getting mixed results from others. 2020 first-rounder Derrick Brown, the number 7 pick of that year's draft, is definitely in the mixed results category. The hulking defensive tackle had mediocre rookie and sophomore years before breaking out in 2022 with 1 sack, 40 pressures, and 7 pass defenses. Pro Football Focus graded Brown at 84.4, marking him as their 46th ranked player for the season. So why should Carolina trade a guy just entering his prime? Well, allow us to explain. For one, Carolina's front 7 is deep enough with superstar Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu, who's coming off a career-high 7-sack season. Secondly, the Panthers need to recoup additional draft capital after selling the farm to the Chicago Bears for the number 1 pick in the 2023 draft. Brown is a very good player on that young D, but he doesn't take over games like Burns or other stalwart defensive linemen. Carolina can get by without Brown, and some club out there could be willing to part with multiple picks for his services. And it's not like the Panthers are Super Bowl contenders at the moment, so why not eye the future by dealing Brown for long-term assets that'll set the Panthers up for years to come? Aaron Jones. If Aaron Rodgers were returning to the Green Bay Packers, Jones wouldn't be on this list, but a rebuild is in order in Titletown, and Jones should be one of the next dominoes to fall. Jones has crossed 1,000 yards rushing in 3 of the last 4 years. He's also surpassed the 350-yard receiving mark every year since 2019. So, with Rodgers gone and with only 2 years remaining on Jones's deal, what's the point of the Packers keeping him around? Plus, the Packers have another stud running back in human bowling ball A.J. Dillon, who surpassed 700 rushing yards in a limited role behind Jones. If he were given a workhorse role, there is no doubt that Dillon would be a 1,000-yard back. So Green Bay may as well save money now, hand the reins over to Dillon, and deal Jones to a running back needy team. His body of work will appeal to several contenders. Jones is older and more expensive than Dillon, so he is obviously the one who needs to go. Devin White. If the Bucs take the hint and start a rebuild, Evans shouldn't be the only notable name to leave town. Devin White, a big-time disappointment since his epic 2020 sophomore year, should also be on the block. White had a career year in 2020 with 9 sacks and 4 pass defenses in the regular season. In the playoffs, he had 2 interceptions, 2 pass defenses, and 2 fumble recoveries, helping the Bucs to a Super Bowl 55 championship. But the number 5 pick in 2019 has been, quite frankly, awful ever since. PFF graded him at 36.2 and 45.5 in 2021 and 2022 respectively. Meanwhile, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, and Vita Vea have continued to be monsters on that Tampa front 7. The Bucs should just thank White for his services and trade him now. Lots of teams will want this supremely athletic linebacker, who may just need a fresh start, but committing long-term to a guy with 1 good season on his resume and 2 horrendous ones is just too risky. There's enough talent on that front 7 to survive without White. Trade him now and don't look back. It should be an obvious call for Tampa Bay. Chandler Jones. In 2022, the Raiders signed the longtime Arizona Cardinals star pass rusher Chandler Jones to a 3-year deal worth $51 million. The hope was that Jones would form a prolific pass rushing duo alongside young star Max Crosby. Instead, Jones turned in the worst season of his career. In 15 games, Jones had just 4.5 sacks and 3 pass defenses. Simply not good enough for a guy with 7 seasons of double-digit sacks on his resume. And for those who scream, sacks don't tell the story, PFF graded him at a mere 63.8 on the year. It just feels like the opportune time for the Raiders to get out of this ugly contract and deal Jones now, even if the compensation is small. The Raiders can always find a cheaper, younger replacement in the draft. Cut your losses and move on. The Raiders never seem to get that memo, but in the case of Chandler Jones, this might be a good time to give it. Darnell Mooney. Mooney is entering the final year of his rookie deal, but the Chicago Bears may be wise to move on as soon as possible. Mooney has had 2 meh years and 1 really good one, recording 81 receptions for 1,055 yards for 4 touchdowns in 2021. But he took a step back in 2022, finishing with just 493 receiving yards in 12 games. The Bears already secured extra draft capital by trading the top pick to Carolina. And they also got a stud receiver in DJ Moore. A full season of Chase Claypool, plus a three-headed rushing monster of Justin Fields, Deontay Foreman, and Khalil Herbert give Chicago's young QB all the weapons that he needs. So why keep Mooney around when he's not going to fit the long-term mold of this offense? Chicago doesn't need him, and some club out there will be happy to give away more draft picks for his services. A rebuilding club like the Bears could use all the picks that they can get. Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill has peaked in the Music City. He had a short and sweet 3-year run with the Titans, but all good things must come to an end. And the front office, led by new GM Rand Carthen, should not hesitate to restart. We still don't know what Tennessee has in Malik Willis. Make him the starter in 2023 and find out that he's either the long-term answer at QB or watch him fail miserably while he helps you secure one of the top quarterback prospects in next year's draft. Hello, Caleb Williams. If the Titans keep Tannehill, he's going to keep them in purgatory. Good enough to flirt with a playoff berth, but not good enough to win a Super Bowl. But also not bad enough to compete for a top 5 pick. Tannehill would fit on a QB-needy team like the Atlanta Falcons, Washington Commanders, or Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Titans just can't keep an aging, injury-prone QB who doesn't move the needle anymore. So yes, Tannehill should absolutely be the next big-named quarterback that's traded. You know, after Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson, of course. If the Titans don't make this move, they will live to regret it. But which other NFL stars need to be traded next? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.